honoring the honoree of the evening, Elsie Katzman, who today is, do we dare say what today is? It's her birthday today. And here we have gathered Elsie Katzman, Ruth Huberman, and Gladys Saul, better known as the Shulman Sisters. Famous singing group, the Three Musketeers, that's right. And they are gathered here today to recollect on those wonderful, happy times growing up as the daughters of Jacob and Sarah Shulman. So here we are on June 1st, 1986, to recall those happy days. So why don't we start and with the earliest memory that we can have of Elsie Katzman. What is your first memory of your childhood? What sticks with you?
Well,
Elsie Katzman. Elsie Katzman.
I would say that when we were kids.
You don't look like Elsie Katzman, but go ahead. Anybody can speak up here.
I think the first recollection is when we were little kids, and we used to go in. We had a bathroom. We used to go in the bathroom, and every Saturday night have a bath. You know what that bathroom?
I remember before that. I remember when we moved in our store. I was about 2 years old, and all I remember is running through the store. I don't even think I was 2 years old when we first moved down our store on Mahoning Avenue. That is the earliest that I can remember.
I remember we lived upstairs from the store, and Mom used to run up and down. I remember that, and I think that's the first recollection. We used to have those things. We used to have a picnic. How old were we then?
Well, we were older then. Like 5 or 6 years old.
Well, where was
we
this?
Had one of the first. We had one of the first radios. Was a
Atwater Kent.
Atwater Kent. It had a what do you call that? With the tubes.
No, yeah, but
Crystal?
it was just
Had
a flat
batteries.
board,
Had
and
batteries.
3 dials, and it had earphones.
Earphones.
It had earphones. We had that.
Yeah,
Papa had that.
And we had
gramophone.
Well, what was the first thing that you listened to on the radio? Do you remember?
Amos and Andy
Amos
was
and
one.
Andy.
I think they came later.
Yeah.
I think that
Who
was
knows?
later. You didn't have. There weren't any programs. It was so new that I suppose it was music. And we had a big Victrola.
Yeah,
Well-
whatever
And
happened
we
to
had
that?
on the Caruso,
Madam Schumann-Heim.
Madam Schumann-Heim, and you used to have to crank it. You cranked it to play it.
Well, what kind of music did anybody like to listen? Did Papa like music? Did Bubby like
Well,
music?
we had all that Caruso and all that stuff. There was no
had all those
jazz.
classical
There was
music.
no, yeah, there was no jazz. There was no.
Nothing.
No rock and roll.
No, nothing. No, not
Well-
even the dance music.
For the benefit of all of the Shulman grandchildren that will be viewing this for generations to come, who is the oldest and the youngest of the Shulman girls here?
Well, I'm the oldest.
Uh-huh.
Gladys is the middle, and Ruth is the next.
But we were
So
all
that-
about 18 months apart.
Yeah,
Is that right?
That's 14.
14.
14 months.
So Papa got hot every 18 months?
He
Just
got
about.
hot.
He got hot.
He got hot in between.
between.
I see.
He was a hot stuff.
Is
Mom
that right?
lost a baby.
Oh, no,
Is
she
that
had
right?
abortion.
She had abortion.
Who did?
Yeah, sure. Didn't you know that?
Is that right?
Sure,
Mom
Mom
had
Was
an
that
abortion.
was
Mom had
that
an
was that
abortion.
after or before one of you was born?
After me.
After
me.
Was it legal in those days?
Who knows?
Well, who did it?
Who
No,
knows?
no.
I suppose
Dr.
Dr.
Brody.
Why-
Dr. Welsh or Dr. Brody?
Why did she have an abortion?
She didn't want any more.
Is that right? Why? You were enough for her?
We
We
were,
were-
for,
yeah, we were
hey,
years
when you had
apart.
3 and 2.5 years, 2.5 years between all of
And
us.
don't forget, my father didn't do anything to
Is
help.
that right? He wasn't working?
He just had a
Oh, yeah,
store
no.
downstairs.
Oh, you mean he didn't help as a
He didn't
husband?
help in the
He didn't
house.
help nothing. Then we remember we had, Ben was from Rick.
Well, wait a minute. Let's go back a bit. Where were you all born?
I was born.
Were you born in the hospital?
Youngstown.
Where were you born?
I was born in Southside Hospital. Cause
I think we all
I was.
No, me, I was born
You
on
were
Wait a
home.
minute,
You
one at a
were
time.
Wayne Avenue.
Wayne Avenue.
I
Where
was
were you
this
born
way.
at, Else?
I was born Southside because I was this way, my mother's
Breach.
stomach.
It's breach.
I was
No,
breech.
that's not breech.
No, I was
It is.
crossways. No, breech
That's
is when
you were
bent,
you were lateral,
forward. I was
transverse.
this way. Yeah, and I only weighed 4
She's
pounds.
still that way.
She's still that way.
I know. I only
I
weighed
see.
4 pounds.
I see. And were you were born in the hospital? Did you say?
Southside Hospital.
I see. Do you remember who the doctor was?
Look on the birth
Brody, I
certificate.
think. Was it
Brody.
Brody?
Well,
Brody.
Brody, Dr. Brody.
Dr. Brody.
And what about you, Mom? Where were you born?
I was born on Wayne Avenue. As a matter of fact, it was in 1990 when there was a big blue people
pregnant
were
with you.
dying like flies.
Flies. And Mrs. Baker, there was a
yeah.
Mrs. Baker
Lily
that
Baker.
came over, Lily Baker,
She gave my
And
mother whiskey and
whiskey
Said-
and got her
the
drunk and
doctor
got her
said-
better.
The doctor said she wouldn't, my mother wasn't gonna have 24 hours to live. And Lily Baker, the next
Came
door
and
neighbor
stayed with
came
her
and
all
she
night.
People were dying like flies. They couldn't build the graves fast enough.
Wow. And
She was
then,
pregnant with you at the time.
Glad, what was your story? Where were you born?
I don't know.
You're here.
She wasn't there.
Dead.
I know you were both born at home.
I
That
don't know. I
Yeah.
never asked my mother where I
I
was.
see. And where did the three of you grow up? Did y'all grow up in the same house?
Yeah.
On Wick Avenue?
No.
Where'd you grow up?
Let's see,
Wayne
we
Avenue.
then we moved to the store on Mahoning Avenue, then we moved to
Millet,
Millet Avenue, then we moved to
Laura
Laura Avenue,
Avenue,
then we
Florida.
moved to Hillman Street, then we went to Florida Avenue, and then to Wick Avenue, and then across the street to Wick Avenue. We
Uh-huh.
were a wandering Jew.
Margie was cheaper
That's
than
true.
moving paper.
Well, let's talk about that first house that you lived in.
Wayne Avenue.
On Wayne Avenue. What do you remember? Does anybody remember
they
anything
just-
about Wayne Avenue?
No, they just tore that house down.
It's a double, it was a
Well, I
double
know, but it
house.
wasn't torn down when you were living there, so what was it like when you were
It was
living
a
there?
double
We were
house.
just, we were just living.
How old were you when you
like
moved?
Lisa Pizza Pie.
How old were you when you
Gladys was
moved?
2, she said. I think I was around one
We
and
were
a half,
about
2
3
years old.
years.
I remember walking.
Oh, yeah, I had to be born.
Sure.
You remember
Oh, yeah.
walking around Wayne Avenue?
No. I don't remember anything with Wayne Avenue.
Did they, let me ask you, did they have the Pyatt Street Market in those days?
No.
On Wayne Avenue? No?
The market was where Vindicator is.
Was that a pretty nice area at that time?
That time was a
Yeah.
real nice area.
And where did you move from Wayne
What
Avenue?
What did Pa do at that time? A milk van?
He was the sanitary day,
Sanitary day. He was a milkman.
Is that right?
Then he opened up a store. We moved to Mahoning Avenue in a store and opened up
You
a
lived at
grocery
the store?
Upstairs.
Upstairs. We lived upstairs.
Yeah, what kind of accommodations? Everybody have their own bedroom?
Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah.
We always slept three in the bed.
We had the living room,
The dining room.
the dining
There were
room,
big rooms up there, I remember.
and I think 2 bedrooms.
And I remember
bedrooms
then
and
the
a
mother
bathroom
came,
and
and
a
then when they brought the mother, where did she sleep? When she came over, where
Was
did
there
we
1 or
sleep?
2 bedrooms?
I think there was a cot in the living room. Remember, Ben even slept there.
Yeah.
When they came, where did we sleep?
Well, what did you sell in this grocery store?
Grocery.
We
Little bit of
sold
everything.
cornmeal mush,
Oysters.
oysters in the,
And I'll never forget, Papa said, Aunt Gladys down to Boston, I said to get some pork chops. She wouldn't go. He came back and he pounded her.
He gave her a licking.
trouncing.
and I think that did it, and he felt so
Yeah,
guilty
and
that
he
he
hugged her.
never, ever
Never
after
touched
that,
anybody.
never touched
And
anybody,
then he gave her
everything
everything she wanted.
everything she
Yes, he
Oh,
did.
yeah.
He gave you cake, that right after that, he gave you a warm cake and ice cream and everything. Yes, he did.
All because one time he
And
whacked you too hard.
Even in later years, that she was the favorite.
There you go.
He was. That's right.
That's because you're the best looking, right, Aunt Glad?
I'm the best one. But
That's right.
I
What can
can't
you
help
say?
that.
All right,
And you know, we used to have candy in the store, and they had those little round things like this. You know, little round
Maple chocolate.
No,
Maple
little
no.
chocolates.
Yeah.
And if you got a pink center, you got a nickel,
You want another one.
another big bar.
They used to have
Got a
that with
big
ice
bar.
cream too.
And with ice cream, you got
The-
another ice
You
cream.
know,
So
you know what we used to
they
do?
stick.
we used to
Sit
sit on the
on the
step.
back the steps and take all this
Take
candy,
all the
break
candy
every one
and
of
break
them
'em.
open. Go to my mother and say, look, we got a pink one, and then we get a free piece.
And then we had Christmas
Well-
trees. And then we had the beads, candy beads, and we'd go back
We
and
had our
we would
stockings.
decorate them. We used to have
You
them
had
on
stockings?
We hung up our stockings.
What kind of Jews were you anyway?
Then Papa would used to fill them with oranges
Apple.
and
Candy
apples
beads and perfume.
and 50-cent pieces. And
Oranges.
I said oranges and apples.
Well, let me ask you, did you used to work in the store?
No, we were too
little.
little.
How old were you when you had the store?
Hey, we went to
About
Washington
2
We
years
School.
went to
old.
Washington
Grade.
school, so you had to be 5 years
We had to go
old.
to kindergarten.
I was
first.
a sixth.
Where did we go to school when we lived on Millet Avenue?
Washington
Washington
School.
School.
Okay, well, how long did you have the store then on Mahoning Avenue?
We had it, I remember, I
4 or
moved,
5
I
years.
went to, we moved because I'll tell you when. I went to the 7th grade, I was gonna go to Cheney. They just built Cheney. And I went through the 7th grade, 7B and 7A, and they were just built Cheney. And then we moved to the north side and I stayed with Tante,
No,
remember?
we lived in Millet Avenue from there, and it- because when we
Yeah,
lived
we
on
went to
Hester,
Millet Avenue.
when we lived on Millet Avenue, when we moved to Laura, that's when I was in the 6th grade.
I was in the 4th.
Sure.
I went to 7th because I was gonna go to
I
Cheney.
know, but that was from Millet Avenue.
Okay, well, how long did you have the store then? How many years?
I would say
I'd say like 4 or 5 years. Then
And
what
what
happened?
was,
More than that, 'cause he brought Benny over and his mother over. Gotta be more than 4 or 5 years. What are you
6
talking
years,
about?
maybe 6 years.
6, 7 years.
But what happened was, is that the Kroger and the A&P
Sam
came in
Moskowitz was out.
and gave everybody credit. I mean, gave,
No.
but
A
reduced the
supermarket.
prices, a supermarket, and my father went bankrupt.
Yeah? And what did he do? Did you,
We moved to Millett Avenue, got a job at the Metropolitan Life
Life
Insurance.
insurance.
he sold life insurance?
Was that the Metropolitan?
And where did you
Metropolitan.
moved on to Millett Avenue?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the nicest house that you lived in
That
those
was a
days?
big house.
Big
That was a
house.
big-
God, you
Now,
had
what
a
she did
ballroom.
one time,
That was a
let me
big-
tell you
a
what she
big
did one
dubina.
time.
That was a
No,
ballroom.
we had a big apple tree in the backyard. That would
Dead.
never forget this. It was a dead apple tree. It never had apples. I mean, it never bore fruit. One time, we were downstairs and Rosie came to me and she cried on me, Rosie, I don't know. She came, she said, look, there's an apple on that tree. What she had done is taken an apple and tied it on the branch. Well, we almost killed each other trying to get up on the back porch, up the stairs to try and get the apple off the tree.
But what'd you put it up there for?
I just
As
wanted
a
to be
trick,
funny.
as a trick.
I wanted to tell her the tree was having apples.
And did you figure it out?
Well, afterwards,
Oh,
I
I see.
wasn't so stupid.
Who were you playing the trick on?
But this
She's
was
doing
hey,
it on me.
Oh, I see.
Before we moved to Millett Avenue, we had a grand old life. We went on a picnic. Across the street, there was a billboard.
Down the street.
No,
Across
right
the
across the street.
Across the street,
Across
on the hill.
On the hill, right there, on Maryland Avenue.
I remember it was down this way
No,
because
no,
across the
no,
street
no,
Dr.
no,
Sullivan
no,
lived and
no,
then
this was us.
No.
And
Right
we took
across the street.
we took a
I wish they'd
salami
get together.
sandwich and a tomato, and we went in behind the billboard,
And that was our
and that was
picnic.
our picnic.
We had a picnic.
Those were big times.
Those
And
were
then we
big
went
times.
down the end of the street where there was a park or a woods
It
or
was
something.
Mill Creek Park.
That was in the back.
Back of that
So how
way.
long
And
did you
and
live?
they used to say that they grabbed little kids.
So how long did you
Yeah.
live on Millett Avenue?
Well, wait, before we
Wait,
go to
before
Millett
that,
Hey,
Avenue,
wait, wait, we had brought the old
we
lady
had
and
other,
Papa.
we had other experiences.
All right,
There
go
used to
ahead.
be the Klan used to go up Mahoney.
Ku Klux Klan.
Ku Klux Klan used to march on Mahoning Avenue with their hooded things, and we were scared to death. And then the gypsies would come, you know.
We
and
were to
they
hide
would-
underneath the
and we
counter.
used to hide under the counter.
We were
They
told
said
they'd take the kids.
they'd take little children.
Hey, we had to have that story.
And you
'cause
know-
I remember going to Hebrew school on the streetcar.
That's right.
Yeah, we did.
They went from the store. I went to Hebrew
On
school.
the streetcar.
On the streetcar.
We went to Hebrew school on a streetcar.
And then, you
I thought
know,
we had to be already.
and you
had to
know
be-
another
had to
thing,
be,
one
something
time,
like
the
older boy.
theater down on Mahoning Avenue, we
Yeah.
were there on a Saturday, and a fire started.
Somebody yelled fire.
Yeah. And everybody ran out and we couldn't find her. She was
Trampled.
knocked down and tramped on.
Who was?
Me.
She.
She,
Oh,
she.
golly, we were
And for
scared
years
to
after
death.
that, we saw the film
Film,
Go
yeah,
Brown.
we get
You lost your scat and your scarf.
Got my hat and scarf.
Yeah.
For a nickel, we used to go to the
And I'll
theater.
tell you, then
We
during
used to
that
see
time,
the Green Archer,
Green Archer.
the Green Archer,
And
you know, the
during-
serials. Just as you're gonna jump over the bridge.
It would end, it would end.
So you had to come back the next week for another nickel.
and not only that, but during the time we lived on Honey Avenue, Pa brought his mother
Oh,
and
yeah,
his
my
brother over,
grandmother.
Benny, and
Benny.
his mother over while we
Well,
lived on
what was
Honey
his
Avenue.
mother's name?
Ite.
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 Yeah, was she a
And
nice
was
lady?
sick-
Well, she
Well,
was a neurotic, I think.
we'll take the First Amendment on that
That
one.
one. I think she was kind
Well, what
of
do you
a
remember
neurotic.
about her?
Oh,
She was sick.
Well, she
fall
was
down
like a
and-
neurotic.
She was a hypochondriac.
Hypochondriac.
If anybody had any kind of medicine,
She would
she
take
would
it.
take it.
She
If
was
you had a
always
cold
dying.
or asthma or
My mother-
diabetes or whatever it
My
was,
mother had to run up and down the steps 50 times a day from the store to the upstairs to
because she
Peter.
was dying.
Because she was dying and she.
How long did she live?
25
Well,
25
she lived to
years.
be in her 90s. We finally put her in a home in Cleveland. She was in her 90s.
87, I think she was when she died.
No,
So
I-
these people all lived with you on Millett Avenue?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
lived with you
yeah.
on Millett Avenue?
Yeah, because she was.
She even moved with us on Wick
Everywhere we
Avenue.
went.
On Laura
Is that-
Avenue.
Laura Avenue.
Where did you move from Millett Avenue?
To Laura.
Laura.
Where is Laura Avenue?
On the
On the
north
north
side.
side.
Off Elm Street.
And what kind of a house did you
Ohio
have?
Avenue.
Off of
What-
Fifth.
Ohio Avenue.
Why did you
Fifth.
move? Why did you move?
Why did we move?
That house was so big. I
It was
remember.
such a big
Oh,
building.
gosh.
We could kill ourselves.
There was one room in there was like a ballroom.
You know what I did one time with Elsie, we were back on Mahoning Avenue yet. I almost, well, we almost had a bad accident. Fourth of July.
Yeah.
And we had the sparklers, you know. And I caught her hair on fire.
Yeah,
She had long hair. And, yeah, that's from that, to this day on, if I see sparklers, I make the kids, I'm really
She did, she
scared
got
of
the
them.
hair on fire.
And what'd you do? Did you go to the hospital?
Put the fire out right away.
And in those days, you know, the kids got lice in their hair.
They get a 15 this year, they
Okay,
get it out
now.
So we used to put kerosene on her hair.
Yeah, that's
The
when,
fire.
that was when they killed her.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So what did we do after that? We moved to Millard Avenue.
Then we moved to Laura.
Then we moved to Laura.
I
We
remember
lived
that.
upstairs
I was
of
in the 7th
Chestnut.
grade because I was gonna go to Cheney, and then we moved, so I couldn't go to Cheney.
I
So
went to
then
McKinley School.
you went to McKinley and I went to Hayes. I went to Hayes, and then I stayed with Hunter. Hey, where did we move from Laura? Because I stayed
From
with
Laura,
her.
we moved to Hillman Street.
Oh, yeah, because I stayed with
We moved
her.
to Hillman
Remember I
Street.
stayed with
Hillman
her?
and Dellison we moved.
Then I stayed with her.
And Hillman was a nice street at that time.
I stayed with her at that time for
Yeah,
about,
Hillman and
I
Dellison.
finished the 7th grade with her.
All right. And then where?
We went to Hillman Street, then we
Went
went to
to
Florida
Florida
Avenue. 'Cause my father lost his job when we lived on Florida Avenue.
Lost his job doing what?
He was an insurance man, wasn't he?
No. No,
Was he insurance
he was an
man?
insurance man.
On
I
Laura
think.
Avenue?
Or did he work for Shielis?
No, he didn't work for Cheyenne.
Milkman
Look down.
Company.
That's Gold
He
Glow
worked
Dairy.
for,
Gold
he
Glow.
worked for the insurance company making $100 a week at that time. And he lost his job, and we didn't have any money. Then he went to
depression came.
Antonucci.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he did.
Superior.
What was
Over there.
Antonucci's?
Superior
The
Wholesale.
wholesale.
Went to Superior
He
Wholesale.
went to Superior Wholesale, made $25 a week, and then he wouldn't pay him.
Yeah, Antonucci was
And
there.
and we didn't have
Anything. And we lived on Florida Avenue.
And then we all, 3 of us in one little tiny room.
one bed, in a metal bed.
In one bed?
In
one
one
bed.
One
bed.
bed.
How come you didn't turn out gay?
Well, we almost did.
You know, I almost did, listen. I slept with my mother and father till I was about 11 years old.
Ooh, my
Yeah,
God,
what
I
made you
remember
stop?
that.
Huh?
What made you stop?
What made me stop? One night my father got a hold of me and started hugging me instead of my mother.
Well, how come you slept with them and everybody else didn't?
I don't know.
She wanted to sleep with him.
Yes, I was scared.
Yeah, she
We were all
wanted to
scared.
sleep
So you and Aunt Elsie always roomed together and you slept
we
with
all
Papa
roomed
and
together.
I
Mama?
slept with Papa and Bobby
No, you slept
in
with
the
us.
middle.
You slept with us in that 3.
Yeah, but after I jumped out of the bed, after I
remember.
scrambled out of there.
Do you remember that night?
Oh,
see, I
I
didn't
sure
know
knew my
about
father
that.
started getting a hold of me and I said, hey, boy, this is it.
I remember.
I didn't know about
Oh,
that.
So this is on Wick Avenue?
No,
Oh,
this on
Florida.
Laura?
Florida.
Florida.
So how long did you live on Florida Avenue?
We went to South, I remember, we walked
South,
to South.
graduated from South.
When you went to South, you lived on Florida Avenue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to walk to Florida.
Yeah, well, let's
Avenue.
talk about that. You all 3 graduated from South?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah?
I
What
went
do you
to-
remember about South High School in those days?
Good, I
It was
enjoyed
good,
it.
I liked it.
Yeah?
We did real good. We all made the Honor Society.
Did you?
Yep,
National Honor Society.
I liked it.
And,
I had those teachers, Green and his sisters.
How were the boys? Yeah, who was the
Who
dating
knew
gal?
boys at that
that
time?
time, who had boys
Who
that
had boys?
Well-
We didn't have, there was no place
Well,
to
you
go.
surely
We
you
used to
had
have
a
parties.
prom in those days.
Yeah, we went
Who
to
went to
that.
the- who went to
I didn't
prom?
go to the prom. We didn't
Do
have
you
any
remember
clothes
your
to go to
all
the
right?
prom.
And else, do you remember your first boyfriend?
I remember no boyfriend there.
We
Do you,
didn't have
do
any
you remember
boyfriends.
somebody you dated in high school?
No, not in high school.
Not in those days.
Nobody?
Nobody dated in high school.
Oh, come on.
They didn't.
Nobody.
Nobody did.
Nobody had money.
So you didn't have a car? How could you date?
Right,
Where
you
would
didn't
you
have
go?
We
any
used to
money.
have parties, and
Yeah?
the kids would
Parties.
come over,
I
we'd
remember.
invite kids over for,
I
and
remember
we,
Izzy
you know,
Cohen.
bologna sandwiches.
That's, we ground up the bologna and the pickles.
And they wouldn't come.
Those, hey, those
Why
were
did
the good,
you invite them fellows to come and nobody showed up?
I remember one time you
those were the
Cohen.
good old days.
Yeah, that was my first boyfriend.
Not that Izzy Cohen. The one that married Sarah Cohen.
Oh, yeah, but that was later.
That was so funny.
And then we had a party one time and our cousin from Cleveland came. Well,
Oh.
I'll tell you,
She's the one.
everybody was there, including the boys, but boys, she had every
She
single
just
boy that
took
was
the
on.
husband
Is
plus
that right?
everybody.
She was a dandy when she was
She took
sexy.
them all. She took them all.
I liked her myself.
Well, now let me
All
ask.
of them, Max Harshman and all of them.
Now let me ask you something. When you say when you say that she took them all, now we know what we mean these days when you say you took them all.
I'm sure
She
took
really
them to
did, huh?
bed. Oh, I don't know. I don't think she did
Well,
that.
what were
But she
morals?
did all the, they were
She
like,
didn't have any
like
morals.
bees around the honey.
Now, what kind of morals were there in those days? Did
Very
anybody?
high.
You don't have morals. You
Very
didn't have
high.
nothing
Not
to
like
be.
today.
You didn't have anything to be immoral about. You couldn't do anything.
No,
Couldn't
it
go
wasn't, it
anywhere.
wasn't like today.
Nothing
you had,
like
you
today.
could spin the bottle.
Yeah, we used to,
That's
right.
all.
We used to play games. I remember with the
Spin the
fellas.
bottle.
Or yes,
Spin the bottle.
And what would you do? What would you do?
Or wink. And wink. We used to play wink. We'd wink at the fella like this.
Yeah.
And then he spoke. Yeah, then you wink back. I can't remember. Then you go and kiss him.
Oh, boy, that was it. Spin the bottle and then you.
Did things ever get out of hand?
No.
Yeah.
You'd roll up the rock.
All right, so
rock and
let's see.
dance.
We got from so y'all graduated with honors from South.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember? Do any teachers stand out at South, or any? Who was the principal in those days?
Oh, Mr. Chatterton and Mr.
The only teacher I remember is
Mr.
Mr.
Flynn?
Quimby, because he got me my job.
Mr.
But,
Flynn?
you know, shorthand typing.
Yeah.
Mr.
Well, I didn't have
Quimby.
him. I had Mr. Horton.
Yeah, I had that for bookkeeping.
Yeah, bookkeeping. Mr. Horton and Mr. Berkman was shorthand.
Yeah.
Every little movement has a meaning of its own.
The only teacher I remember is my kindergarten teacher.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
I just never forget her because she wanted me to put away some toys. And I didn't want to do it.
Uh-oh.
So she stuck me in the nurse's, the little bathroom that was between the nurse's room and the room. Remember that big playroom?
Where was kindergarten?
In Washington
In
School.
Washington.
Okay.
And she stuck me in that little room. I had to sit there by myself.
Uh-oh.
I went home and I said, I'm never going back to school again.
Needless to say.
And that's the only teacher I remember. Her name was Miss Mears.
I remember
Miss
mine
Mears.
South
Miss
High
Mears.
Oh, I had her for
Yeah,
kindergarten.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh, she was
I had-
nice.
I know, but she stuck me in the room.
Wasn't there a Miss Miller there? Sure there was a Miss Miller.
Talk about your teachers.
Well,
There was
Miss
a
Woodard, there was
Miss
a Miss
Woodard, but
Woodard.
Miss Miller.
Miss
Miss
Miller.
Miller.
Where teachers will wear.
Yes, sir.
In
There was a
Washington
kindergarten
School.
teacher, Elizabeth Miller. Yes, sir. She was a tall lady. I think she was a kindergarten teacher, a Miss Miller.
Yeah, my thing.
Elizabeth Miller. I had a Miss Mears, I remember.
Miss Mears.
I remember
For
her. We have a
Valentine's
picture of
Day.
her.
Who was
We,
your meanest teacher?
Hmm?
Who was the meanest teacher you ever had?
Kindergarten teacher.
Listen, you never did anything to me.
Now hold this picture. Now I want you to tell me where this was.
Washington School, we were roses.
Were you now? Who's in that picture?
Me.
Where?
Right there, the
There.
prettiest one.
Hold it up. Oh, is that it? And then what grade was this?
That was there. That's about fourth grade.
don't you have it written on the back?
Must have been about third or fourth grade.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, were you all? Did everybody have to be in those
And
plays?
you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
yeah,
and
and
the
you know
violets.
that mothers had to make the costumes.
Well,
And our
we couldn't
mothers
do it.
didn't know how to do it.
No.
So some other lady.
I remember I was a violet.
All right.
Pansy.
So when you left high school, were you then living on Wick Avenue?
High school. We left high
After you
Yeah,
graduated?
We graduated already on
Yeah,
Wick
already
Avenue.
graduated.
We graduated from
South.
Florida, yes.
Yeah, because we graduated from
So you
South.
left
When
Florida
we lived-
Avenue,
when
did
we
you go
lived on
from
Wick
Florida to
Avenue
Wick?
already, you were working, I was in school, I was in college. Elsie was working at
We were
Klein.
working at.
I worked at Klein's for $1 a day.
Wait a minute. All right. Well, let's take these one by one. Aunt Gladys, you say you went on to college when you
I went out to
graduated?
Kent State.
For how long?
I took at that time, the 2-year teacher course. Yeah, to be a teacher, that's all you needed for elementary grade.
And did you teach?
I graduated, and I was going to teach.
Did you commute or did you live in the
I
dormitories?
lived there.
Uh-huh.
I lived there. Pa used to come after me on weekends or whenever I used to come home, and I worked there. I worked my way. I worked for a professor, a physical education professor. I did in the office. Was paid for all my tuition. And I graduated with on the dean's list too.
And when you graduated, you come back and teach?
No, I came back and I was going to teach, and who came to me? Uncle came and said that there was an opening. And this was in June. There was opening at the Hollywood shop, which is part of Livingston, for to work in an office, and they paid me at that time. I would get more working there then their teachers were being paid. Teachers were very low paid at that time, 1937, and during the Depression. And they were paying me more than double of what the teachers were getting. So I took the job. I stayed there 7 years. I was the credit manager, and I was in the office and bookkeeper till I got married.
All right, Mom. What'd you do after high school?
I got, no. I got a job with Levi's Shoe Repair.
That's where I was too.
Right down the
Avenue.
street. Right down the street from where you were.
No, right where your office is, right on Wick Avenue
Right
there,
there
right
where the
across
Dollar Bank
where
is,
that
Jimmy Monterelli
Monterelli's, there was a shoe
Right.
repair shop,
Okay.
Levi's. And I got $7 a week.
Wow.
And I was cleaning shoes and shining shoes. And, come here, Tubby. And I, he was at work too.
Levi, oh, man.
And then I was working there, and Mr. Quimby from South High School, Robbins Furniture needed an employee. So they called the South High School, and Mr. Quimby recommended me. So I got a job making $14 a week instead of $7. So I quit my job at Levi's and went to work at Robbins Furniture. And I was only there 2 weeks. And Mary Scanlon was going to fire me because she had hired another girl. And Ben wouldn't let her fire me.
Why, did he have his eye on you?
Yeah. No, not at that time. Not at that time.
We're on to something here.
So anyway, I was at Robbins Furniture for 10 years. I started at $14. I was there a month, I think, and got cut to 12 because the 1937 Depression recession came on. So what I had to do was I had to work 2 days a week at Robbins Furniture, and then I worked 2 days at the center. Mr. Robbins didn't want to let me go, so he got me a job at the Jewish Center, and I was there 2 days a week, and at Robbins Furniture 2 days a week until things got better.
So J. Edgar Robbins, a nice fella?
Well, he was a nice fella outside of the work. He could be as sweet as could be, but oh boy, if you came in and there was a picture on the wall like that, well, you got hell. If you paid 2 cents postage due on an advertisement, you got hell. I quit. I don't know how many times and they called me back.
Uh-huh.
I was there
All right.
10 years.
Okay. Mrs. Katzman.
Yes, sir.
All right, what'd you do after high school?
During high school, while I went to high school, I worked at Westlake Crossing Market for Rusnack for
For
$1 a day.
What'd you do?
I worked at clerk, like in a grocery store. Then I worked at Klein's department store in the men's department.
Where was Climbs?
Down on East Federal Street for
Okay.
$1
Near
a
where
day.
Havers is.
For $1 a day.
Tell about Mr. Light.
And Mr. Light, oh, he was a slave driver. Then there was then I don't know what happened, and I got a job with, then they had a grocery department, and there was another slave driver from the south, and I worked. He used to tremble like this to go to work, and I remember just like one day a week, and I worked there. Then I got up, later on, then I was transferred to the office, and I got a cashier's job up there. I worked in layaway, I got a cashier's job, and I worked there.
Fine.
Fine. With Ina Dell in the office and the layaways, and with Harry, what's his name? Label. And Saul Carner worked there, and Harry Label, and George Delmont. I got it from there with Ina Dell in the office, and I worked there.
All right, well, who was the first to get married of this bunch?
Me.
Oh, yeah? All right, well, tell me about that. How did you meet that character over there?
I don't know how I met him. I don't remember. Through Lil, I guess.
Your father did.
No,
You-
that was
No.
through Lil.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Lil who?
No,
Because
sister.
she had parties and
She
we
had
were invited
parties.
over there.
Yeah? And where, you met him at a party?
Yeah, through his sister Lil. I don't know. She brought him over, I think, one time.
Yeah?
She brought him over.
And was it love at first sight?
Nope.
No. Was it love at
You
third
want the
sight?
truth, don't you?
Yeah. Well,
Are you listening, Nate?
I'm listening.
well, what happened? I mean, how did this romance develop?
Well, I guess as time went on,
You developed.
it developed.
Yeah. Well, how long did you know him before you got married?
She had to get married.
Is that
She
right?
did not. She did not have to get married.
I see. All right, well, how
Couple
long
years, I
after?
guess.
Couple of years. Was the service in between?
No, the service was
After.
after.
Oh, I see. So when you got married, what was he doing at that time? Was he working?
Yeah, working for Heyman's grocery store
Where was Heyman's?
Delaware.
on the Delaware, on the
Delaware.
north side.
I see. And did you continue to work?
Yes, I did.
Where did you live? Were you living
Well, got
after
an
you got married?
apartment.
Where?
On Garland Avenue.
Uh-huh. And how long did you live there?
Yeah, we did. We got our furniture.
Well,
We
we-
lived out Pete's place.
From February
From
to
February till June when he went into service.
I see.
June. 3 months later, I had to leave.
Yeah, and how long was Uncle Abe in the service?
From 42 till, I think,
45.
the end of 45.
And did he ever get to come home during the service, or was he on the road all the time?
No,
And then
she
in June of 42, he went in. He wasn't
He
discharged.
didn't come home.
No, except one time
She
his
went
father.
there.
I went with him.
She followed
But the
me.
only thing, once in a while, I think his father and Ethan had that operation. And we got to come home on a furlough. And that's all. But I went there.
And
First, we didn't even know where he was at. When we first started, when he left, nobody knew where he was.
where was your
at.
wedding?
Down the old Temple of Emmanuel.
Is that right? Who was the rabbi? Do you remember?
Manello. Rabbi Manello.
And were Aunt Gladys and my mom in the wedding party?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. Who was your maid of honor?
Aunt Gladys, I
Aunt
think.
Gladys?
I think.
And where did you go on your honeymoon?
New York.
New York? Is that
New
right?
York City. On the
Would-
train, there was no other way.
What'd you do and where did you go in New York?
They do on their
Taft.
honeymoon?
We stayed at the
Yeah.
Hotel
At the
Taft.
Hotel Taft.
Yeah.
Did my father wait on you?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure he did.
That's where I met him.
Yeah. And was Papa in favor of you getting married?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. How'd you get along, Uncle Abe? How'd you get along with Papa?
We got along very good. He used to call on at the store selling us wine.
Is that right?
And that's where I met him.
Uh-huh. And what did you think of him?
Very nice of him.
Is
Very
that right?
highly of him.
Uh-huh. All right. Who got married next?
1 month after she got married, I got married.
Yeah,
Exactly.
where did you meet Sammy?
Actually, I was with somebody else. He was with somebody else, and we happened to be double dating, and he took a look at me and he couldn't help falling, you know,
I see.
after all.
And how long
And from that time on, we went
how long
together.
was your engagement?
Off and on 4 years.
4 years. Boy, I tell you, whose fault was that? Yours or his? Who was holding
Probably
out?
half and half, I guess. I'd fight with him, and then I'd see him at a wedding, and then we'd get back together, and then until we
We'd talk to him
decided we
again.
might as well fight all
Then
the
you wouldn't
time.
talk to him
And
again, huh?
where was it? Where did he propose?
God, but I got a call from.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Proposed?
And anyway, when I hung up the telephone, I guess he got enough nerve up and asked me to propose.
And did you say yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I did.
Oh, gee.
And then where did you get married?
Temple Manual.
Yeah, and who was your maid of honor?
I don't know whether it was Rosie or me.
I remember we were all in the wedding party with Abe Harshman and Ethel and Louis.
And where did you go on your honeymoon?
Same place.
New York.
Same
New York
time, same.
Taft Hotel?
Taft Hotel.
She checked out and you checked in.
Hey, you forgot to ask who the rabbi was.
And then did Sammy
Max,
go
were
into
you
the
there at the
service?
time too?
Mhm.
Did Sammy go into the service?
Yeah, this
I
was
checked
in
it out.
March, and he left in the following August or September. He left.
Yeah, and how long was he in the service?
The whole time, all during the war.
Did he ever get to come home?
I was with him.
Oh, you went overseas with him?
Yeah,
Not
when he left,
overseas.
not
Never went
overseas. Never
overseas.
went overseas.
Oh, he didn't?
He was lucky. We got to be very good friends.
Where did you go?
He was stationed up in Fort Stevens, Oregon. Oregon. And I took a leave of absence from work for a month. And I got a job there as commanding officer's private secretary. And I stayed there the whole time. And Sammy was transferred from the from the Harbor Defense, the fighting unit, to Service Command, and they put him in the same office with me in the headquarters building under the quartermaster.
So he defended the West Coast.
He wasn't defending the West Coast.
I see. All right.
He was there a long time.
Russell?
Came back.
All right. After when did you get married?
March 1946.
Yeah, and how long after Aunt Gladys and Aunt Elsie was that?
After the war. Well, when were you, what,
I remember being at your
45?
wedding.
We were married in 42.
I was married in 42.
42.
February 42,
We were
it'll
married
be
in
45 years.
46. Yeah. 4
Yeah.
years afterwards.
Were you all worried whether she was actually going to get married or be an old maid?
Nah, she had a lot
No?
of boyfriends.
No,
She
not at all.
did.
She did.
She did. She had a lot of boyfriends.
Yeah, she belonged to USO.
Yeah, that's
Got a
right.
hairy schmuck in the Bronx. That's
Asked her about the USO.
Yeah. So where did you meet
That's
her?
where I met him, at the USO.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna leave, and some soldier said to me, "Oh, come on back." The hostesses were not allowed to eat at the USO. It was the Jewish Welfare Board had in where Brenner's Jewelry was downtown in the basement down there. And the soldiers would come and they could eat there and dance, and they had an orchestra. And so when I came back, yeah, downstairs, and where Brenner's.
No kidding.
And so I was sitting there with this other fella while he was eating, and Mr. Huberman was sitting there, and he starts asking me, questions, and
What you think of Leon Trotsky?
what I think of Leon Trotsky. And he asked me to dance. Then we went out, and he wanted to take me home. Well, you weren't allowed to leave with the soldiers. So he met me a couple blocks down the street, and we walked home from downtown to our house on Wick Avenue.
Do you remember Aunt Gladys? Do you remember or Aunt Elsie? Do you remember first meeting my father? What do you remember?
I didn't meet him until they got married,
Oh,
because
you didn't-
we were up in Oregon.
Oh,
We were in the service.
Oh, I see. And so what did Papa think of this fellow you brought home?
Well,
That's
my
a
mother,
story.
my mother thought he was too frailer.
What's Freda?
Too exuberant and
Happy
too,
go how lucky you know.
too
A gigolo.
gigolo.
And he told me he was a Greek Catholic. when we
Woo!
met him.
Oh, geez.
And he was eating chopped liver when I met him.
Max, why did you say that? Why
Well,
did you say that?
So then we walked home, and see, my mother, I think they invited him for dinner on Friday night. And then my father,
The man who came to dinner.
my father, he would, he was stationed in Chenango, that was in Sharon. And he didn't have a car, and he was only used to driving a tank. So he took my father's car.
And wrecked it.
And he ran
Broke the
into a ditch.
axle. Oh, did he?
Broke an axle.
Oh, geez.
So they were good friends from then on.
Oh, yeah.
Never gave the car from then on.
So how long was your engagement?
Well, then he.
Or how long did it take you to get married
No,
after
then
that?
after I met him, I had arrangements to go to visit Gladys in Oregon, so I
Yeah, that's
went by
right.
train to Oregon. And he called me from there to Oregon, and he said he was shipping out. He was going to get prisoners. And I thought he was shipping out. And he did. When I came back from my vacation, he called me from somewhere and said that he's back in Chenango. Well, he went AWOL, and he got, when he'd come in to see me, he would.
I stayed over my allowed time.
Yeah.
So they confined me to quarters.
And they built he was supposed to supervise building a little
A
tree.
stockade,
A
to
stockade.
keep prisoners in. I was in charge.
And the whole thing fell.
After I built it, everybody escaped.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
That sounds so.
Oh,
And
my.
we went to see him in Shenango with Benny, remember? And he used to play the song, he used to play the guitar and play Pistol Packin' Mama. Lay that pistol down, babe, lay that pistol down.
So how long did it
pistol
take you
Mama.
after you met him
Well,
to get
then
married?
he went overseas. He really did go overseas in 1943. And he was discharged
2 years
2 years
later.
later on Thanksgiving Day of 1945.
So you never saw him for 2 years?
No,
Well, this is what I don't understand. Well, he was overseas. You were with your spouses while they were in the service.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was.
But you didn't. Did you?
No, she was married.
wasn't
Yes,
married yet.
Did you remain loyal to him while he was overseas?
Oh, sure.
remember.
Why do you have such
Why
a
do I
question like
know,
that?
Mark?
With him
What I
sitting
did,
there?
Asked about you, was he
I
loyal?
didn't have to remain loyal because there was nothing to remain loyal. I wasn't
Max.
engaged.
Well, did he correspond with him? Did he correspond
Oh yeah,
with
he
you?
used to write me very nice letters about all the things that were going on in India.
Yeah,
Mark,
and what
ask your
about
dad,
you?
was he
Did you
loyal?
correspond back?
I think I did. I don't remember.
Max, were you
And you
loyal?
know what he did? He sent my grandmother a box of Whitman's chocolates from India.
Oh,
and he brought my mother an ivory bracelet that looked like a TV ring. And he sent my father a cigarette lighter. And he sent me a heart made of silver.
Where is it?
I see. Well, do you remember when he came back?
Yeah, Thanksgiving Day of 1945. That was on a Thursday. And the following Tuesday he was in Youngstown.
And did he ask you to get
Oh,
married
to
right
get
then?
Right there, he said.
Is that right? What was the circumstances?
Hmm?
What were the circumstances of his proposal?
Well, he wanted to get married. I said, this is so sudden. So then, my father was upset. He didn't want me to marry him because Max didn't have a job, and my mother thought I was going to New York, and he would leave me, and oh, they were unhappy. My father didn't want me to marry him, but we got married anyway.
Yeah, and where did you get married?
And Shaman.
And who was everybody there? Did you all come in for the wedding?
Yeah, the war was over. They waited until the war was over. March.
Right, and who was your maid of honor?
Mimi.
Peggy?
Mimi.
Mimi?
Mimi?
Mimi Douglas.
I think Mimi first.
I don't think he was there, huh? Meeting them.
Peggy was in the wedding
And
car.
Yeah.
and where did you go for your honeymoon?
New York. Where else was there to go? But
Yeah,
not at the
and where
Taft
did you stay?
Hotel.
At the Taft Hotel?
No.
No,
You went to your
Oh.
mother's, didn't you?
Over at his mother's?
Oh, to his mother's house.
Ah.
Okay.
Oh.
At the fancy suite at on
Oh.
104 Second Avenue.
Max had to have a chaperone.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have to have a chaperone, Max?
Listen.
Well, let's talk about the in-laws here. Aunt Gladys, how did you get along with Sammy's
She didn't
family?
have any.
And Sammy's mother died when he was 9 years old, and Sammy's father
I don't think we should.
Sammy's father was, they didn't get along too well because when Sammy's mother died, I guess he turned to drinking. And so the kids all lived together, 6 kids.
Sammy had 6 brothers and sisters?
Let's see.
6 kids.
Let's see. there was
Irene and
Louis, Sylvia, and Sammy, and Irene,
Sally.
5. 5 kids. And Sally was in an orphan home, so they got Sally out, and then they all lived in one apartment, the 5 kids together.
No father, no mother, nothing.
No,
And was their name really Soliduki in those days?
I don't know.
I
guess
thought
they
they
tell
I
me.
thought I had heard that they were all Solidukis.
Might be, I don't know.
I think
Ever since
Papa-
I've known,
I
it
think
was,
Papa
Pa
did
did that.
that.
Pa gave
Pa
him that
did
name.
I see. And so how did you get along with the rest of the brothers and sisters?
Oh, they're wonderful.
Are they?
To this day, they're wonderful,
Uh-huh.
wonderful.
Are they all still living?
No, Sally died about a year before Sammy died. And Irene's still living, and Louis still lives in Washington. And Irene is in Newcastle,
Sylvia?
Sylvia's in Washington. Yeah, they're all,
How about you, Aunt Else? How about your in-laws?
they were very poor.
Who was very poor?
That's Sammy's family was very poor.
Not fair.
Yeah? Are Abe's parents, were they around and about at that time?
Yeah, they were not bad.
Where did they live?
On Garland Avenue.
Uh-huh. And how many brothers and sisters did Uncle Abe have?
We have 2, another brother beside him, and
Is he?
sisters.
2
What-
sisters and 2
2
brothers.
brothers. Well, there was 4 of them.
I see. And were they both living at the time you got married, Uncle Abe?
Yeah.
Both parents?
As long as they did, I think since about 53.
And did they approve of you? Did you get along well with them?
There, with times.
Mets a mess.
Mets and Mets. How about you, Ruth? You and Bobby Dora and Nathan Huberman?
Yeah, got along real well.
Yeah. She didn't think you were a wild woman?
A
Wow, woman.
How could she be a wild woman when she had a wild son?
Listen, his
How
mother,
about the husband?
his mother was so glad he was marrying a Jewish girl that she didn't care what I was like.
Well,
And
who
she
was the
encouraged,
first?
if I can remember right.
When was the first time that bit? And Elsie, why don't we start? Let's see. Since you had the oldest, well, let's have some recollections about Carol and about Harvey and Eddie. Start with Carol, obviously.
Well,
Was Carol a good baby?
yeah, she was a good baby.
Did you have a long labor with her?
Yes, I did. She
You
was
did.
the longest one.
Yeah, was it a natural childbirth?
No, not, well, he wouldn't give me anything because he said if he gave me something to sleep, that I wouldn't dilate and I wouldn't do anything. It was a long wait, it was 14 hours. It was more than that at home, but
And who was the doctor?
Dr. McClanahan.
And what was Carol like growing up? Was she a bright kid?
Oh yeah, she won all kind of awards in school, and she made the honor society, and she belonged to the BBG. She was president of the Neighborhood Girls, and she went to a convention in Illinois with them. And going to school, she made the honor society every time, the honor roll all the time.
Was was Carol an early walker or talker?
Carol walked away at 14 months. I remember I was downtown. She was over my mom. And the day President Roosevelt died, she was out in the driveway and she walked away. She was 14 months. Harvey and Eddie were 18 months before they walked.
18 months.
18 months. Everybody was going crazy, driving me crazy, and I took them to the doctor. When they're ready, they'll go. But that's what happened. When they were 18 months, they walked away.
What about talking? Did they all talk early?
Richard was about 2.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but they could say some words. I think Carol talked a little bit, but the boys talked, I think, before they walked. But I can't remember too much.
And
well, Carol, I said she won 4 scholarships. She won the first PTA from the city, and she won the Kent State University. Her tuition was paid for 4 years because she kept her grades up. And she won the following year, the first year at Kent, they called me up because her grades were up. Her scholarship was renewed again. And then they gave her one there, up there, her last quarter.
did I hear you say that Harvey was a sleeper?
Yeah, he was. He was a quiet.
He was quiet.
He was
At least
quiet.
anytime.
He was a loner, but he was a good boy. He really was.
Harvey was a good kid, never got in trouble?
Nope.
No.
Carol was appointed Teacher of the Year up at Michigan.
Is that right?
She was just appointed teacher of the year now.
Second time in
Yeah,
Brunswick.
the second time she was appointed teacher of the year in Michigan, and she won teacher of the year award now in Three Ridge up in.
Well, personality-wise, how would you distinguish Eddie from Harvey?
Well, I think Harvey is more quieter or something, more softer than Eddie. He's not as
Outgoing.
yeah.
How did they get along as brothers?
Very good.
Oh, excellent.
Did they?
Except one time.
When?
Except one time.
Except one time. They called me up and
Well, when
Eddie, Harvey
through the window.
pushed his, Harvey through the window.
He touched him, but he went through the
He
window.
didn't touch him, he pushed him hard. His hand went through the window and cut an artery. And they called me up, Elsie was working, and I ran down there and I grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his hand. And I was going out as Elsie was coming in, and I said, meet me at the hospital. We grabbed Carol and everybody. We went to the hospital, and
Well, that's because you lived on the same street at
Yeah.
those
yeah,
days.
At that
and
time.
they had to immediately see if to stop the bleeding because he was, with the artery. And he had to go to hospital. He had to be operated on that night at 12 o'clock at night. Dr. Katz had operated on
The
his
interns wouldn't
hand.
touch him because they were afraid they'd touch a tendon. He wouldn't.
So they didn't get along so good at that time.
They got, well, that
They
was
got
that was
along,
just
they
an
got
accident.
But after that, boy, they just.
Were they
after that,
real-
boy,
were
he
they-
never touched them.
Were they 2 peas in a pod? Were they pretty close brothers?
Oh yeah, very close.
What about the Sauls?
What about him?
Well, what about him? Richie, you said walked at about 2 years?
No, Richie talked about 2
Oh, he
years.
talked
I think
at
he
2
walked about a year, about 12 months he walked.
Yeah.
Linda was late.
Linda?
Yeah, she was a late walker.
Was she?
Yeah, and Kenny, I can't remember, but I think Kenny might have been about 15, 16 months.
Were they natural childbirths?
Except Kenny. Kenny was a breech, but it was natural. He turned him or something.
No, they were natural because you were 2 days in labor with Richie.
Oh, that's why they weren't natural. They were.
Well, Margie said natural. They didn't have natural.
No, they
at
didn't have
all.
natural.
And but the labors were long. It was long.
For Kenny, for Richie.
Richie.
After that, the other ones were too bad.
And what were they like? Were they happy kids?
Oh yeah, my kids were good.
Yeah.
The only problem I had was with Richie with his hair.
Yeah, he used to wear it long.
Yeah, hi.
And he was a guitar player, wasn't he? The new
Guitar,
Elvis
yeah.
Presley.
He wanted to be a
Wanted to
cantor.
be a cantor one time.
Richie was gonna be a cantor.
What caused him to switch? What got
I don't
Richie
know.
out of being a cantor? Because I remember that. Richie was very much the religious
know.
student.
I think Greiber moved away, and he was his idol.
Cantor Greiber was his idol?
Yeah, and I think
he was the one.
and he liked Cantor Greiber, and I think once Greiber moved away, I think he had
Did Richie know how to daven and everything?
Sure he did. He did the whole bar mitzvah.
Uh-huh.
Now I can't say that for now because
No,
he
I
doesn't
should
even
say.
do
Huh.
anything.
Did Linda have a bat mitzvah?
No.
No?
I don't think at that time they had
Because
girl
Carol
bar
wanted
mitzvah.
it.
Carol wanted it,
Carol
they
wanted
didn't-
it.
they
She went
wouldn't
up
do
to
it.
Schechter. He said absolutely not.
They didn't have bar
Girls
mitzvahs
don't
of
do
girls
that.
at that time.
And then not very long afterwards, I can tell you, somebody's daughter wanted to be bat mitzvah,
And they had
and so they had it.
And how did they all get along? How did Richie, Kenny, and
when they were kids, they got along good.
were they?
Oh yeah.
Did they room together? Who was in the same room
Richie,
together?
No, we're the boys. Richie and Kenny roomed together. They
Uh-huh.
had their own room.
They ever used to fight?
Not too much that I can remember of.
Did they all
Kids
work?
are
Remember, they're like kids
Kids
like
are
any other
anyboys.
kids.
Did they all work at the store?
Did you ever fight?
Jeff and I,
Yeah.
like cats and dogs.
Okay, so there
Yeah.
is. So yeah, but I
Did
don't
he?
know.
Did they all work at the store?
No, just Richie.
Just Richie? Kenny never worked at the store?
Oh yeah, later on he did. Yeah, but not as much like Richie.
Yeah. When did you have the store, by the way?
On
How long
South
had he had the
Avenue.
store? How long had he had that store?
Well, as soon as Sammy came home from the army.
Yeah, he started the
1946.
business himself.
Yeah,
It was his own business.
no business.
Where did he get the name California Wine Shop?
He named it after the California grape.
After the grapes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, he-
Did you ever work at the wine shop?
No.
Did you do the books for them in those
Oh
days? Or
yeah, I
anything
always
like
did
that?
that. But I never worked there.
When did you start to work for Abe Harshman, by the way?
See, I've been there 22 years. 26 years. So how many years is that?
1986 is what? Is 60.
60 some in the 60s, 60s,
1960.
60 some, yeah.
Didn't you really?
Where were you working before that?
Because I was working this morning.
Daddy didn't want me.
Oh.
Where were you working before that?
She was
Before
on
the-
service.
Before Abe Harshman.
Before that, I was having babies.
I see.
But I worked in the I worked in the
At home.
you know when we were now in the army. I worked up there, and then we came home, and I stayed home.
Huh. And what caused you to go work for Uncle Abe Harshman?
I was getting bored. I was on all kind of PTA things and all kind of programs. And I thought, heck, I'm going to devote so much time, to this charity, so to speak, volunteers. I'm not going to work and make some money.
Did he pay good?
Yeah, bits and bits.
What did you
At
do?
that time.
What did you do for him?
I did books. I mean, and I did accounting.
This is when he was on Wick Avenue? Is that where he started?
Yeah.
In that upstairs,
Upstairs.
upstairs place? And where were you working at, Elsie, at that time? Were you working for Hughes?
Yeah, just on Saturday. They called me and I wouldn't go at first because I had to take the kids to Hughes School on Saturday and I wouldn't go. I started work for them on Saturday. I went for 3 days and
How long ago was this?
that's when Eddie was in first or second grade. I remember that because I wouldn't go during the week to school because he had to come home for lunch, so I wouldn't go.
Do you think that was a big difference between then and now, that parents were home with their kids in those days?
I do.
That mothers
I
at
think
least?
so.
I do.
I never worked when the kids were little. No way.
I wouldn't work until the kids were.
That's how most parents
Not
felt
even
about it?
coming home
At
from
that
school.
time.
That most mothers
Because
would...
I remember Eddie used to say, when I come home, and if I want to tell you something and you're not here by the time you got home, then they forgot what they were going to tell you. So I never went to work when the kids were little. Eddie was already going to Sheridan already when I started working. It was only on Saturdays anyway.
Mhm.
And it started later on. It started for a couple of days, and I didn't work any more than that.
Yeah, and then you just worked more and more full-time?
No, while the kids were little, I only worked like 1 or 2 days a week for them the most. That's all.
And then once they got into high school, or when they graduated, or...
Well, later on, I don't know. Then your dad came after me. I started working for your parents, but the kids were already big. I mean, I didn't leave them home alone or anything. I just didn't. never left them home alone.
With everybody being in Youngstown for most of these years, did the three of you do things together as couples? Did you go to social functions and things like that together?
As a family, we had always family social functions. Always had family social functions.
Went fishing
Every
together.
birthday, yeah. And we went on vacation
Oh,
together.
yeah, you and I remember we took when the kids were babies like that. We went to Geneva,
We went to Chicago.
to Chautauqua, I took a cottage, and we
We
went to
used to take Bubby and Papa
Geneva.
all the time too. Wherever
Yeah,
we went
we
on
took 'em.
vacation, we always
I
took
took
them
them
with
to
us.
Osaka Beach, Canada, with us, with the kids. I took them, we went to Washington D.C., and I took the kids, but we went on vacation together.
We've covered the Saul children and the Katzman children. How about the Huberman children? Were they early walkers, early talkers?
Well, Jeffy was an early talker. Jeffy talked in 10 months. He said, "Duck."
Duck?
I'm sure that's what he
Yeah,
said.
that's what I was gonna say.
And of course, you were sick.
When did he walk?
Jeffy didn't walk till he was 14 months old.
Oh, them too, like Carol. But my
And then
Eddie
you
was
didn't
18
walk
months.
until you were 19 months old.
And and were they long labors for either of us?
Well, Jeffy, I went in the hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning on a taxi in New York. We went on the taxi. And your father kept saying, it's 2 minutes apart. He's telling the taxi driver, it's 2 minutes, let's hurry up. And we had to go about 25 miles
Oh, my
to
gosh.
the hospital. And I think Jeffy was born at about 7 in the morning.
Were you knocked out?
Oh, I was so knocked out that I got violent. Took
my
4
God.
nurses and 2 doctors to hold me down from the drugs. From the drugs. And then I got up and they said, you had a little boy. And I said, no, I didn't.
You were arguing with him.
No, I just said I don't even believe it was over.
Yeah.
It was so violent. I was throwing myself
How do you
everywhere.
know? You were out.
Oh, but I remember I was going, you know what you were, you didn't know what you were doing, but
And what about me?
you, I went in at
Yeah, I remember you. You were
7 in the morning, and you were born at 10.
10.
So that's-
Morning, 3 hours. I don't know. Wasn't married.
3 hours.
I know
Yeah.
she and I were both together.
And Jeff and I, were we happy kids?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Killed
We
each
fight all
other.
the time?
No, you only used to fought one time. Over a feather. No, we
Feather?
were working at the store.
7.
And for some reason or other, Jeffy started beating you up or something. And you got the best of him, and he was so mad that he chased you from room to room. And then you called us at the store, and I was so mad that we had to come home that I banged the car door and smashed my finger.
Oh, my God.
You didn't fight
Oh,
though.
you mean you left them home alone when they
Well,
were
we were
little?
at the store.
Well, let's
What
get
is- how
let's
old were
Jeffy was 10 and Marky was 7.
let's
They were just here.
let's talk about Papa and Bubby. What you remember about Papa and Bubby? What about their relationship with each other? They get along well?
Not really. He wasn't. My mother was the best person you ever.
Yeah.
Never
Why
said
do you say that?
anything bad
Very
about
easy,
anybody.
very easygoing,
There
and
was never
very
any
easygoing.
badness in my mother
Nobody.
for anybody, no
Good.
matter how bad you were. There was never any bad.
Yeah. What would she used to say about? I mean, did she have a kind of a philosophy about people?
Yeah,
Yes,
if
she
you
did.
don't say anything good, don't say nothing.
She wasn't an educated lady, but she was smart in her way, sure was.
Yeah.
She was smart with her sayings and smart with her ways.
Was she considerate for neighbors and family?
Even cats.
Even cats?
Yes,
To
yes,
feed
stray
every cat,
cat.
every stray cat.
Yeah.
This is our house.
Yeah.
She loved cats. How about dogs?
Oh, not so much though.
We had a dog.
Who was
All
your
we had
dog?
was Chip.
Chip.
And he used to run after the cars, remember?
And then I used to cry. He used to
He got
run
killed.
away.
And then Pa and I used
And
to
he'd
go
come
almost
back.
every other weekend to Niagara Falls to see Benny on the train. And one time Chip
You
ran
always
away. We couldn't find a boy before we could go to Niagara Falls. We had to find that dog.
Well, who did the discipline? when you were growing up? I mean, who would
Nobody.
nothing
You
to
didn't have to do
discipline?
anything bad to get
You
disciplined.
didn't need it, you didn't
You
need it.
needed discipline. We were never disciplined.
Yeah.
Even when we started dating, they even told us when to come in or when to off to whatever. I never did anything wrong.
What did Bubby used to like to do? Did she have any hobbies?
No.
No.
She couldn't even read, I don't think.
No.
She used to write Jewish.
Right, she could read she used
to
to go to
read,
the
she knew
temple
read.
and she used to sit there
She
from
knew how to-
morning
and read the
until
Hebrew.
night. She did.
She did.
Yes, she did. I'll never forget that.
You could,
She
read
went on
English
Yom
papers.
Kippur.
Sure.
And she would sit from morning till night and read that book, and she wouldn't even go out for a break. She was gobbling all that time.
She knew all the services.
Myron, yeah, just a little.
And let's see. What did Bubby have any hobbies or anything like that?
No,
No. Did she sew?
no.
No.
Do anything.
What
Play
about
cards.
Papa?
They used to
She
play
played poker.
She played poker.
Yeah, they had a poker
They
club
had a poker club.
on Saturday night, and oh boy, and if she'd win, woohoo, they'd really, Paul would give her
What do you mean
hallelujah.
if she'd lose?
Yeah, but if she won a couple times, you know, she
She didn't know how to play, really.
But she really won a
But
couple
she
times.
won, and then by mistake.
But she'd win, and boy, would they.
Could she dance?
No.
No.
Never danced.
She was just a hard-working old lady. That's what she was.
She's a real Jewish mother.
Yeah. Was she a good cook?
Oh, very good.
She was plain.
Her plain
Plain.
food. No, her chicken soup still doesn't taste like hers.
Plain food.
What do you remember about Papa? And as you were growing up?
Papa was he was a self-made man. I can tell you that.
He was a smart man.
Intelligent. He was a self-made man.
Self-educated.
Yeah.
Very smart man.
Just
Not a
didn't
hard
get the
life,
breaks.
though. Not a
Yeah,
hard
right,
life.
right. No breaks.
Circumstances.
Did
make
he
him
have a
the
lot
way
of
he
friends?
was.
Did he have a lot of friends?
No. Not many.
Well,
They had
they
poker
did. They
club.
belonged to clubs,
Yeah,
and
they
they
had their poker
the
club.
Peskins and all them. They had poker clubs.
Louis Agnon?
That's right. He had some friends.
Did he dance?
No.
Papa dance?
No. He was a good looking man.
Yeah, seeing all the pictures of him, he used to
The
be
one
very
picture, he looked
nattily dressed.
Like
and-
Woodrow Wilson, that big
Yeah.
one. We can't find him. Just like Woodrow Wilson.
He could tell you who the president was and who the vice president was and.
He knew
smart man.
history. I can tell you that.
He was.
86.
86.
Papa died